platforms as well. We are live, all the way live. Happy Wednesday. Some call it Mercury Day, a day that has strong influence with the planet Mercury, uh, planet of communication. We're broadcasting live from deep in the center of Mama Africa. And I don't want you to get twisted with a geographical location when we say that. All right. All over the African world. Africa is inside of us. We have some special family members with us on the line. We're getting ready to have some conversation with them, some celebratory conversation. It's time for celebration. And you know us, we don't like to we don't feel the need. Let me just say we don't feel the need to embellish anything, and we don't feel the need to embellish anything because if you study our story as a people, we have so much to celebrate. So true celebration is appropriate in this moment as we are celebrating institution building and the progress of the same, as we're celebrating just the love that fundamentally allows these things to happen, you know. So I'm going to do a couple things. Right now, I want to play something for all of you that I think is, and I'm going to say all of you, y'all checking in with us, who are live with us. One of our great ancestors, who I know either directly or indirectly had great influence, continue to have great influence on the work that HABESHA does. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to give y'all some homework out there, some little classwork. Let's call it classwork because you're going to be right here with us. Just like and share the link. Share the link. Slide in somebody's DM with this type of stuff. You know, let them know you about that life for real. You're going to slide in the DM, you know, let them know we talking about African liberation here, and it's real talk. And it's based on something that's happening in real time, you know. And I'm gonna just share a few words from Kwame Ture, a great African, a great builder, a lover of his people. And we're gonna be forward to introduce our esteemed guest and to talk about 23 years coming up of HABESHA helping Africa by establishing schools at home and abroad. Let's go.
This is the job of the conscious. But the conscious gets their sustenance from the unconscious. I am certain that most of the brothers and sisters attending the Million and More March were unconscious. Unconscious in the sense that they do not consciously try to develop themselves in a systematically basis, on a day-to-day basis, to make a contribution to the people. But the milieu which that unconscious mass created now makes it possible for the conscious mass to make this unconscious mass quickly conscious. Quickly conscious. I had the honor, when working for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in 1968 in Washington, D.C., after having served as 1 year as the chair of the organization, of being with the SNCC team that helped develop the first Black United Front in this country. It came out of Washington, D.C. It was well organized. After leaving for Africa, and much confusion, mainly with the in the Black United Front, the front fell apart. Moving to the All-African People's Revolutionary Party, we have done everything in our possibility to create an African United Front. What do we mean by an African United Front? We are saying that those organizations which are politically on the front lines fighting for our people, like the NAACP, like the Urban League, like the Nation of Islam, etc., should come together and form a united front. This united front is a very simple thing now, a very simple task. All it means is that we come together and have common meetings And if we hear one attacking the other newspaper, we don't respond to the newspaper. We telephone each other and ask them. Our party's been doing much work on this. Because we're among comrades who work, we will give you some of our files, which is not made public. Only here are we doing so. The Nation of Islam was an observer at the Washington, D.C. Black United Front. Although invited to join, they felt that at that time they wanted to observe. They were allowed full participation except voting, which they themselves accepted as observers. That is, they could fully participate in every level of the discussion. When the United Front broke up, the All-African People's Revolutionary Party quickly moved to put together a united front. We had brought together Mr. Roy Wilkins, who was alive at that time. This was in 1972. Vernon Jordan. Who was before Vernon Jordan? The one who died in Africa. Whitney Young. No, it was, I'm sorry, Whitney Young had died, it's correct. It was Vernon Jordan. Vernon Jordan was then at the Urban League. Of course, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was alive, and he was sending Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan as his representative. Jesse Jackson was representing PUSH. Dorothy Height, the National Council of Negro Women. Reverend Abernathy, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Innes Corps, and we represented the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. My brothers and sisters, I'll tell you the truth. You must never get discouraged in struggle. You will build something and the enemy will knock it down, and you'll have to start from zero. But as we say in our party, we're starting from a higher qualified zero. You must never be discouraged in struggle. As a matter of fact, the easiest way for the enemy to take you out is to make you frustrated and disgusted. Oh, I went to that meeting, they ain't doing nothing, I ain't got no time for them. Until they get serious, I ain't going there. What you doing? I ain't doing nothing. And they really think that they're intelligent. They think they've made a great statement. So you must not be discouraged, but the enemy's job is to discourage us. We did a lot of work trying to get that meeting together, a lot of work, a lot of work. And because of a Zionist plot, they wrecked the entire meeting in 48 hours. The meeting was wrecked, but we were not. And we are revolutionaries. You knock it down, we're coming back stronger. We accepted defeat, we licked our wounds, we pursued our battle. We continued with this aspect of it. During that time, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad passed. Before his death, you know, death has robbed me of so many things in life, really has, really has. The most recent one was I have a brother who's in jail in Florida for killing a white policeman. This brother has been isolated in jail. Nobody writes him. So he has a lot of problems. And his father and I knew each other from struggling days back in the 60s in Dayton. Asked me to write him. I wrote him. So, you know, when brothers are in jail, they ain't got nothing to do. So he writes me a letter every day. And I respond to all his letters because he's in jail. You know. And last year, when speaking on the telephone, I told him, I think I have everything careful. I'm going to speak to Bill Kunstler, and I'm sure Bill Kunstler will look at the case. In March of last year, I had lunch with Bill Kunstler and in New York here, and Bill Kunstler agreed to take the case. And he said, but you know, I'm just a little bit busy now. Give me about 2 or 3 months, and then send me a letter, and I'll pick up the case. So I waited 2 or 3 months, and when I wrote the letter, before the letter arrived, Kunstler was dead. So death has robbed me of many political victories in life and created more work for me, but I'm a revolutionary. I accept it because I know my death is going to create a lot of work for others. So it's robbed me of a lot. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's death robbed the All-African People's Revolutionary Party of a golden chance to create the United Front. Of course, you know, when the Nation of Islam came up, there was first Wallace Dean Muhammad, the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then, you know, there was a little discussion, and finally Minister Louis Farrakhan decided to return with the original theories and actions of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But Minister Louis Farrakhan first came out, of course. Now, let's let you know, I've known Minister Louis Farrakhan for over 30 years and worked with him for over 30 years. Of course, we're not in the press all the time, but we're in contact all the time. And Minister Louis Farrakhan and I discussed much, step by step. Of course, the only thing I had in my mind was the African United Front. That's all I want. And Minister Farrakhan said, okay, he sees it, he understands it, but he needs to get a little bit stronger. Fine. In 1982, our party made an assessment, and we said, okay, the Nation of Islam is strong enough now to do the work for the African United Front. We cannot do it the All-African People's Revolutionary Party because from the time they see us, we tell them we're revolutionary, we're socialists, we ain't bending, we're anti-Zionist, you can do what you want, that's your problem. You understand? So we don't bend, but the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he's charming and, you know, he's sentimental. Minister can quote Bibles, so he can sit down with preachers and all these others, etc. So after observing his movements, the All-African People's Revolutionary Party mandated me to go and visit Minister Louis Farrakhan and to give him the files of the African United Front and tell him that it was his responsibility to call the front. Of course, it was a task that I enjoyed undertaking. I hadn't seen him in some time, and I had a beautiful day. We spent the entire day at his house there in Chicago. You know, he just separated from Dean Wallace Muhammad, and his force had been coming back. And I took for him some old copies of Muhammad Speaks. Now, if you look at the old copies of Muhammad Speaks, every middle page that you open had two black hands reaching across the oceans calling for a united front. Every issue of Muhammad Speaks. We must know our history, and we will never be ungrateful to those who taught us. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught me an awful lot, and I know he's taught our people an awful lot, and for that alone, I'll be forever grateful to him. Minister Farrakhan agreed to take the program. He had no choice. I told him, this is your program. This is what your leader says you're supposed to do. He ain't my leader, he's your leader. And you say you're following his footsteps, you know, and he was getting ready to do it. He didn't do it. Here's your chance. You're supposed to do what he didn't do, you know. So, of course, Farrakhan had no choice. He had to accept it. We were well prepared. Everything was in proper order to have, finally, once again, our African United Front. By when was Jesse first talking about running for president? It was 1984. 83 was announced. When did Farrakhan make the alliance with him? November 83. So by 82, I left. I went back to Africa. Everything was moving. I was in contact with Minister Farrakhan. Our party people were in contact, feeding us step by step. I came back in early 1983. I met with Minister Farrakhan. I explained to him precisely the steps that we thought we could help in bringing the African United Front together. After some time, he asked that we have a meeting late in the year, probably around September, October. I'm telling the truth exactly what was said at the meeting. Minister Farrakhan said to me, at that time, Jesse Jackson had declared he was going to run for presidency, and he was under a lot of threats, you know. And I certainly thought that some crazy whitey was going to pop him, you know. But I have no problem with it. My life is on the line all the time. I put my life on the line for one thing. You put your life on the line for another thing. I ain't got no problem with it. You know, so Minister Louis Farrakhan came to see me. He said, you know, and he's very clever, Minister Farrakhan. He's very clever. When he wants to soften up, he plays that violin for you. Oh, Brother Kwame, you're my younger brother. But you know, you are so profound in political analysis. You surpass us all, but even though I am your older brother, I must come and seek advice from you. He's rough, you know, he's rough on that violin. He sings some sweet songs on that violin. So, of course, after seeking my advice, he came to seek my advice. He said, I want to make a decision. I said, what's that decision? He said, I want to put the FOI at the disposition of Jesse Jackson to protect him. I said, well, if you want to do that, that's your decision. He said, well, you don't seem enthusiastic about it. I said, well, I'm not. He said, well, Jesse Jackson might get killed. I said, he probably will get killed. He said, don't you think we need to protect him? I said, that's your decision. It's your FOI. You know, he said, so now he saw that it was getting serious. He said, you know, he's clever. He's clever. Because he'll switch on you fast. You know, if you don't switch with him, you'll be in back gear while he's in front gear. You're already saying yes when you thought you were saying no. Yeah, he's rough. He said, well, I bet if you were being hounded and attacked by people, you'd want the FOI to protect you. I reminded him very slowly and very carefully, Minister Farrakhan, when I was elected chair of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the first public meeting I had as chair was a meeting with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in his house in Chicago, where I spent 15 hours. In fact, it was here that I met Muhammad Ali for the first time. This is way back. This is before, well, you old people, so I would say before you were born. We're talking about 1966 here, easily. 30 years ago, yeah. At the end of the meeting, of course, you know I'm a young man. I'm 26 years old at this time, 26. I've heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad all my life. What am I going to say to this man? This man used to raise me up, you understand? This man taught me things, gave me courage. I said, he's saying that on the radio? Is he crazy? Yeah, he's a white devil. That's what I said. They ain't nothing but white devils. That's what they, yeah. Yes. He'd tell the truth right out there. He wouldn't bite his tongue for nothing. You know, and I reminded Honorable Elijah, the Minister Farrakhan, I said, at the end of the day, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad looked at me. I was sitting directly across from his table. He said, son, he said, the devil wants you. I said, yes, sir. He said, son, the devil's out to get you. I said, yes, sir. He said, son, you must be careful. I said, yes, sir, I'll be very careful all my life. I've been working in a mine pit among the enemy, and I'm older now. I have more experience. So he said, they're mean, you know. I said, yes, sir, I know they're mean. He said, they're going to get you. I said, yes, sir. He said, so, son, I'm going to put the FBI at your the FOI at your disposition. Everywhere you go, I'm going to send out an order that the FOI must protect you. Now, you know, this was really too much for me, you know. So I said, well, sir, thank you, you know, but you know, the FOI is so busy. I'm so busy. I'm running here and there. This will be such a task for them. Really, I thank you, sir. I really appreciate it, sir. And I know I go through all this humble pie about thank you, but I don't need it. You know what he said? He said, son, I wasn't asking you. That's just what he told me. And if you go and look at pictures in the past, you'll see everywhere I go, the FOI was there protecting me from the 60s. You will look and you will see that. So I reminded this to Minister Louis Farrakhan. I reminded him of it. And I said, Minister Farrakhan, the FOI will protect me, but I promise you they will never protect me because I want to be president of the United States of America. They might protect me because I want to rip up America, but never because I want to be president of America. Well, he saw that his clever trick didn't go so well. So he backed up again. He said, well, what do you think about the alliance? I said, it's a great mistake. He said, why? I said, because Jesse Jackson is a Democrat first and foremost. The Democratic Party jumps to the tunes of the Zionists. While the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was a confrontational organization and confronted Zionism outright, the first place I read about the Palestinian struggle in this country was in the Mohammed Speaks newspaper. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught me about Palestine when no left-wing paper in this country did. And they talk about nationalism is chauvinism. Look at that. I saw pictures of Malcolm X shaking the hands of PLO representatives when the PLO was first organized in 1964 in Mohammed Speaks. In Mohammed Speaks. Therefore, I told him, I said, the Zionists, they hate us, but they know you the first. So what I'm worried about is when they spoil the union and it splits, you understand? Which side of the fence you gonna be on? Because I know Jesse gonna be with the Zionists. Because that's the Democratic Party. I'm just brutally honest with you. I'm telling you exactly what was said between us. We had a very frank discussion. After that discussion, I told him, what about the African United Front? He said, it's still good. Of course, me, myself, I knew with the thing with Jesse, it was problems. But in spite of obstacles, you must do your work. In spite of obstacles, you must persevere. I said, well, I want you to meet John Jacobs of the Urban League. He said, I've never met him. I said, I'd like you to meet him. He said, you could arrange a meeting? Will he meet with me? I said, yeah, I can arrange a meeting. He'll meet with you. I arranged a meeting at Johnny Jacobs' office here in New York, in Manhattan. The first time they met each other, I just sat in the background, talk. So well did our meeting go that Minister Louis Farrakhan and Johnny Jacobs signed a letter that day issuing a call for a united front among the political organizations in this country. We have it in our files. When the time comes, we will demonstrate this. The Urban League has a copy, Farrakhan has a copy, and Major Hatcher Hatcher from Gary has a copy because at that time he was head of the mayors, and we were working with him, of course. I went back to Africa. It didn't take me long before I heard all this nonsense about gutter religion, Judaism, gutter, or dirty religion, or whatever. And Jesse having to split from Farrakhan, and you know what happened. Of course, I knew what happened. But when we were with Jacobs, Minister Farrakhan, and myself, one of the things we agreed upon was that we must have the phone numbers of each other. They didn't even have each other's phone numbers. And we must have the house phone numbers. So that when we hear something on the radio that Farrakhan said this about Jacobs, before Jacobs attacks Farrakhan, Jacob will call Farrakhan and see if what the paper says is true. We agreed to this. We did agree to this. Of course, this was not written in a letter. This was a verbal commitment. But we're brothers. We can't lie. And I'm a revolutionary. I can't lie to you. Of course, when Jesse Jackson made his split and the Zionists once again, with a nice plot, did everything, Johnny Jacobs, without calling Minister Farrakhan to see if in fact he made the statement, what was the content in which the statement was made, wrote public articles condemning Minister Louis Farrakhan. Once again, Zionism had come to block and destroy the unity of the African community.
You're tuned in to yourself on your station for progressive information and epic quality music. There was a long story time with, as one of our teachers, Professor James Smalls, always says, history erases the mystery. And we chose to play that, even though time is of the essence, because we're living in an unfolding moment in our story. The headquarters for this powerful organization that we will be interviewing representatives of is in Ghana, West Africa. And for those of y'all who've been studying the news today, a couple of significant things happened. In Northeast Africa, there was finally a ceasefire between the Zionists, or a ceasefire agreement between the Zionist regime of so-called Israel and the Palestinian people, or Hamas in particular. And we pray that that would mean an ease of all the suffering for the Palestinian people, the bombing and the genocide. On the west coast of Africa, the Sahel states have been coming together and really shaking off the cloak of imperialism in some serious ways, returning their resources to the people. And these things are fundamental to the dreams of these great heroes. Like today, we're actually celebrating the actual birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King, who was in Ghana in 1957 for the independence celebration of Kwame Nkrumah. Dr. King was there along with his wife, along with many other people from the diaspora. So I'm saying all that to say, history repeats itself. All history is a current event. And we have on the line with us, even though they're not a political organization per se, our cultural reality, our music, our farms, our language, our linguistic expression, none of that can really prosper without having a power base of unity, a power base of integrity, a power base of strength. And we see all of that in the organization HABESHA, helping Africa by establishing schools at home and abroad. We see all of that in, as we said in the intro, in the reality of that relay race, if you will, that this current generation is now running with the baton. We heard from Kwame Ture as an example of someone who is, as we say in the streets, triple OG, put in his time in the fields of Mississippi, in the dungeons of the North American Empire. He put in his time, really manifested what true love really means in terms of service, And there's so many others along with him in this legion. So we know for sure, we know without any doubt that when our ancestors see the work of HABESHA Incorporated, which is focused on agriculture, which is focused on education, which is focused on knowledge of self in very tangible ways, we know that our ancestors are pleased. And we wanted to give some context to this, so you don't just think it's just some culture over here on the side, as an extracurricular activity when everything else is done, when we finish being Democrats and Republicans and Americans and all that stuff. This is all part of the pie, all part of the puzzle. And without any further ado, I want to introduce two representatives of this powerful organization, as we said, which is getting ready to celebrate 23 years of power, and unapologetically Black power. How many organizations, say that without kind of whispering it and everything, and we see what Black power really means. We don't go by the media thing. Black power is not the same as what these people call white supremacy, white terror, which is the degradation of other humans and all that kind of stuff. Black power is just simply saying that once the root is properly nurtured and honored, then all the branches can flourish. It's just simple science. That's that George Washington Carver science. That's that Martin Luther King science. That's that Fannie Lou Hamer. But without any further ado, I want to welcome to the Ancestral Rock one brother. He's not a stranger to us. He's been here before. We know him as a worker, one of the worker bees in the vineyard. He's an artist in his own right, a community leader. He does a lot behind the scenes in terms of organization and logistics. He's a grower and all that. Our brother Master Peace is with us this afternoon. Greetings, Master.
Greetings, brother. Greetings, everyone tuning in. Thank you for sharing space, Brother Raskofi.
And we also are very happy to welcome Sister Arsenata, who is a recent graduate of HABESHA, works, but as I'm sure you can tell, she is bringing life experience to this. She's not someone who is 12 years old, just sprung up yesterday, and it shows the really beautiful diversity and the generational wealth that HABESHA really represents. Among other things, she's a substitute teacher. I know she was just dealing with our children all day today, so we're going to let her get some rest in a minute. But thank you for joining us, Sister Arsenata.
Thank you.
So for those of y'all who may not be familiar with HABESHA, that's those of y'all listening, I'm sure that somebody has been existing under a rock somewhere, or maybe was off in space somewhere and hasn't heard of HABESHA. Master Peace, tell us what HABESHA is. I would say who, as an entity, what HABESHA is.
So give thanks. So for those who are not familiar, HABESHA Inc. is one of our pillars in the Pan-Africanist community in Atlanta and abroad. The acronym HABESHA stands for Helping Africa by Establishing Schools at Home and Abroad. And quite literally, the organization has been training and educating our communities in sustainable agriculture, green infrastructure, technology, solar, self-sufficiency, knowledge of self for the past 23 years. The organization, uh, uh, directed by Brother Kashawn Myers, stewards a community garden in the historic Mechanicsville neighborhood at Rosa Burney Park.
True.
We do annual educational HABESHA Works trainings. By the way, HABESHA Works is accepting applications right now. So HABESHA Inc. You can find out more information on the webpage. But yes, we have been training and educating ones in our community for 23 years, and the fruit is in the work. You can see, the examples of our work and education throughout urban agriculture, sustainable sector in Atlanta and abroad.
Sure. True story. True story. Sister Hassanata, I got some inside information that your name means joyful excitement. Yeah, we could feel that in your countenance for everyone, even who's just tuning in. And also that you actually, as a recent graduate, traveled abroad and were able to see the Kasi Institute, the Kwaku Ando Sustainability Institute in the Ewe region, in the Volta region of Ghana. Tell us about, first of all, congratulations on the journey, your graduation from such an august program, and also being able to travel over to Africa, see with your own eyes. Tell us what got you involved in HABESHA as a person who has already had some life experiences. You could have been doing so many other things with your life. Why HABESHA?
I haven't known you that long, brother, Scopy, but I already love you. I love how you are sharing with the community that I am seasoned. Yes, I've been here quite a few decades, but I give thanks. I have a youthful heart, a youthful spirit, and also pretty much still in very good health, very good shape, and I give thanks for that. It actually started, and I'll make it very brief. It started in the late 90s. I'm from New York. I'm a native New Yorker. I've been here now 16 years.
What part of New York?
Brooklyn.
Oh, Lord.
Bed-Stuy.
Do or die.
There it is. Born and raised. And so my dad is actually a Georgian. So, my mom and my dad, my mom's from North Carolina. My dad's from Scottsdale, actually. And so they met in New York, and I'm one of their, first fruits. So I was standing one day at the job, and I looked out the window, and I said, it has to be more to life than this. I got tired of all the concrete. I just didn't feel like I, fitted in anymore. And so, of course, when the market crashed, I moved to Georgia. I had some friends here. I came to visit. I fell in love, and I moved. And so we found out about HABESHA in the year 2009 from a brother named Mugabe. That's funny. He and I went to junior high school together, and we hadn't been in touch. And so I heard about it, but I really didn't know, and again, I don't believe I was ready then, or else I would have joined. So of course, my mom and I relocated. We got acclimated to Georgia. And then the sister who introduced me to HABESHA, she joined the course in 22. I tried to also get in the class in 22, but it didn't work out. But of course, after attending the class in 2023 and being amongst the students who was in that class, I knew that there was some divine appointment in that, and that's the class I was supposed to be in. So I was excited. At the time, I was overweight. I lost 20 pounds working those grounds. I've since changed my entire eating habits. I'm a vegan now. I hate the term, but I use it just so people understand. I am completely real plant-based, the stuff that come out the ground. I've been at now 2 years. I've lost 45 pounds, which makes it even easier for me to move about. And in 2023, I am a traveler, avid traveler. I've been to now 18 countries, but I have been to 17. I have been to, the continent before. And in 23, I was like, I'm going to Ghana in 24. I did not know we were going to have a reunion or anything. I just said, I'm going to Ghana. And whenever I say that, I pause because I'm not one to just say things. If I say it, it's going to happen. And so when I said it, it shocked me too, because I hadn't traveled since 2008. My last trip then was to Egypt. So when I said it, I'm like, oh, wow. So I'm grateful, the Most High made it possible. My family, stuck with me and they made it possible. And along with Masterpiece and 4 others, we went to Ghana this year.
Oh, beautiful. How was it? What was the experience?
Awesome. Like I said, I've been to Zambia, I've been to Egypt, I've been to Kenya twice, and I've been to Nigeria. But this was the first trip to the motherland that I really felt like I was home.
What made that difference, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, I don't mind at all. It was just, again, it just felt like the camaraderie, the welcome, the food, everything just felt like I had been picked up and put back where I, was actually taken from. Yeah. Everything in me. It was spiritual, yes, but it was also physical too. Mm-hmm. I even came home and made the okra stew that we had, mm-hmm. With the fufu. I love to cook. So I did that. And even though I'm physically back here in, the United States, I just feel like I'm supposed to be there.
Ah, you're talking my language, sister. I tell Kashan that every day I'm walking in Liatewote.
Right. Exactly.
There's a couple places in the world. I have the honor of being in a couple places at once. One is in my home village in Buxton, Guyana, which our sister Siobhan, who is the wife of Kashan Myers, we come from the same village. And Liatewote, it just had that impression on me, so powerful. Yes. Now, just to bring it all the way home for our family listening, again, it's just spirit. I didn't intellectually plan on playing that Kwame Ture clip and everything, where I honor spirit when spirit talks. And there's so much there because, again, today we just heard about a ceasefire with Gaza and everything, we've been hearing about the Sahel states coming together and shaking off the cloak of imperialism, neocolonialism, especially with the French, taking control of their own minds and their own gold mines and all this stuff. Reviving the work of people like Thomas Sankara and Kwame Nkrumah. We hear about all that. A lot of the discourse online amongst Black people, especially, it's something we gotta break this cycle. Every 4 years, we're talking about the lesser of two evils, blah blah blah. We gotta find something better for ourselves, and sometimes it gets into, I dare say, a spirit of kind of lack and hopelessness, like what they're gonna do to us next. Now these fires that are happening out west, and we're seeing the theories float around about that not being any kind of just a natural occurring fire, and the whole community of Altadena, which I've walked in myself, a historically Black community up in flames. So I'm saying all that to say, and then of course on the bright side, as an example, we saw 500 plus Africans from the diaspora be sworn in as citizens of Ghana recently. And that was something that was just a great celebration, So in the context of HABESHA, and just in the context of being an African from America, having been able to touch base with the continent, I want to ask both of you, Masterpiece, I happen to know that you had some influence, some even creative influence in the early drawings, the early design of the Kazi project out in the Ewe region of Ghana. Mm-hmm. Tell us from that perspective, you ain't gotta embellish, I know y'all won't, just tell us the real. What do you see, or do you see a future, a very viable future, more than something that's just sentimental, which has its place for Africans in America over on the continent, especially in Ghana?
But of course, yeah. I mean, not to mention, everything that Sister Arsenata just mentioned about, our spiritual connection to that coast, and, the passageway that a lot of us have now landed here in the West. Aside from that, we have to examine the intentional disinvestment in the continent itself, and what we as African Americans have now been privy to experience here in the West, whether it be finances, education, modern infrastructure, and bringing all of those tools and learnings back to our motherland is, I think that is the evolution of our birthright, to be honest, and once you travel there, I'm speaking on Ghana specifically. For me personally, you'll feel that it's right for you to be there and leave your mark and learn and understand and unlearn all that you've kind of learned in the West. And it's just, as Sister Arsenata mentioned, it just feels like home. I've seen so many brothers and sisters look like my kin. You know what I mean? So it's just a spiritual, emotional, physical connection there, that you just can't deny.
Let's see. Over to you, Sister Arsenata. The same question. Beyond just which is, and I want to qualify there. I'm not downplaying sentiment. Sentiment, emotional energy has a very big part of our existence. In a really tangible, practical way, do you see a bright future for Africans from America on that continent, especially in Ghana?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've met people that have been living there now 30 and 40 years. And that blew my mind because I did not know, that there was such a, if you will, exodus from here to there that long ago. Mm-hmm. So to meet people that said, well, I've been here 30 years, I've been here 40 years, I had to ask myself, what have I been doing? Like, why didn't I know about that? So there's some of us who actually, again, since we've been here, we're talking about what we can do when we return. So some of us are even planning to stay the entire month of December next year. Mm-hmm. So that we can plan some things. Opportunities are present there for us. They were actually, told to us while we was there as far as land and things of that nature. And so some of us are really working on how we can see ourselves as part of HABESHA and expanding exactly what HABESHA is doing, so that not only is it a blessing for, those that are leaving here there, but those that are already there. Yes. You want the community, want the villages, want everybody there to be able to benefit from it, and again, make it even more viable or vital than it is now. So as Brother Masterpiece says, a lot of us, gifts, we have skills, we have talents, we have major careers that we can actually go there and use to make, the village, again, better. Not to say they don't have that there, but working together, it'll be an awesome experience. Mm-hmm. So, and even, the leadership there, they're even saying that. Think about how you can bring the skills and the gifts and the talents that you've, been allowed to acquire. Even though we've had our major struggles here, we still have been a whole lot more blessed than a lot of, other people elsewhere. So
we've had access to a lot.
Yeah, we have, exactly. So we can take that access, take the skills, take all of that, to the motherland and help their lives become even better.
Absolutely.
That's why I graduated from retirement and started substitute teaching.
I share. And as we're talking with Masterpiece and Mama Arsenata, both of HABESHA Incorporated, coming up on 23 years of celebration of great work, helping Africa by establishing schools, a home in the community. We're taping this for WRFG Atlanta, so you hear me mention the Ancestral Rock. Shameless plug. You can catch the scroll on the bottom there. We are on actually tomorrow to date this, not to really date this, but we're on every Thursday from 2 to 4 p.m. And we have some exciting connections coming up to even expand our platform that we'll be talking about soon. So I wanted to say that part of this, in my mind, is just a primer in Pan-Africanism on a basic level, because where I want to go to next is right down to Mechanicsville, right to where the garden is located, the work that is done here. And I want to go there because I do realize that there are many people who don't have the desire to return to Africa for whatever reason. However, it's very important to illustrate, to demonstrate, to make crystal clear how the development of our mother continent is so fundamental to our development, even if we're going to be working and staying over on this side. You know, it's not just about repatriation. Of course, repatriation is in many of our minds for many different reasons. We don't even have the amount of time to go into that today. That's a whole show in itself, or several shows, right? However, just in terms of the development of Black folks, you know, the world over. And we're talking, let's just localize it to Atlanta, Georgia, much less the United States. With all that we've already spoken about, all the background that we've experienced with our own hearts, with our own minds, whether it's the police terror, whether it's the political upheaval, whether it's the fact that even just yesterday, the FDA released something about banning red number 40, red dye, which, you know, Dr. Ando and then was telling us for 40 years about, you know, that type of stuff. So whether it's our health, our politics, our spirituality, our sense of community, our sense of safety within community, and our ability to build and just have some from liberated space where our children can grow, whatever it is, it's very important to know that the development of the continent of Africa is intricately tied into that development over here. Dr. King, again, in his speech, is something that y'all can check out on YouTube. It's called Birth of a New Nation, where when he came back from the inauguration of President Nkrumah, gave a very powerful, compelling sermon called Birth of a New Nation. And he talked about, right back then, he was talking about people starting to go over there and make good on the opportunity to develop that country and develop themselves as Africans from the diaspora. That was in the 50s, you know. So as you said, you know, it's been a long journey, and the fact that most of us don't know that is not our fault. In my mind, this is just me. It points to how powerful that is, because. And then when I say how powerful that is, when I think that the media is mostly controlled by enemies of our progress, I wouldn't be broadcasting that either if I was controlling the media. I'd be trying to keep these Negroes separate forever. You know, as Kwame Ture was talking about, you know, the Muhammad speaks and everything, the whole emblem was a black hand and a black hand reaching out across the Atlantic, touching each other, Pan-Africanism, you know. So that's a lot to unpack, and I would like to get into now what's happening with boots on the ground in terms of how HABESHA is helping Africa, let's just say abroad. This is home for many of us in this continent, but that is the abroad part. The at home is on the continent, and abroad, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. I have seen a lot of evidence of the footprint, the beautiful footprint that HABESHA has established. And I'd like to hear from both of y'all in terms of your perspective on that. Let the people know what's been going on over on this side. Starting with you, Sister Asanada, as a recent graduate. Tell us more about the benefit of the HABESHA works and some of the other programming for yourself as an African living here in America.
Well, for starters, I never thought, again, at my young age, that I would have a passion to go outside and get in the soil, and I mean get in the soil. I go out and dig it up and constantly thinking about what I can grow. You know, I always knew that, you know, groceries didn't come from the supermarket. However, born and raised in New York, that's where we went to get them.
Right.
And just to have this full awareness and understanding that I can't sustain myself if I don't know how to grow my own food. And see, that's the other thing. What if they chose tomorrow to shut down every grocery store? Many of us are going to be, you know, in bad shape.
Yes, so well.
Right. So just that passion alone to know that I can literally start learning how to grow my own food. And not only just for me, but community. You know, I was fortunate enough after graduating HABESHA, when I did decides to go into substitute teaching, one of the very first opportunities that presented itself was to support the teacher who's teaching agriculture.
Whoa, look at that.
Okay. And so I was in the classroom playing with a little rabbit. I would have never done that before. Never. Not being a city girl. My mom teased me. She tells me, now you're more country than me. And I count that as a compliment.
I see.
You know, so
Sure.
I play with the rabbits now. I'm in the ground. You know, we planted, you know, different flowers and everything. And I came home, planted them in my front yard. Just that reconnection to the earth is just, I can't even put it in words, just how much I've evolved. And I give thanks because at the end of the day, I tell people, it doesn't matter your age. It really doesn't. As long as you have life, breath, determination, and perseverance, you can do whatever you want to do. So I've literally come alive that I've learned how to get in the soil for myself, okay, and just create something and know that I can plant a seed, it will germinate, and it'll turn into something that can just not only benefit me, but benefit my family. I learned how to can. You know, I made pear preserve. I learned how to make my own walnut butter. You know, all these things I've learned, and that's because of what I started learning in HABESHA.
Yes, sir.
It just changed my whole world. And so, you know, my mom is on the journey with me now. She's 85. She's eating better. You know, I come home, I create all kinds of dishes. It just gave me a complete awareness of how much control I can have over my destiny. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I take pride in. Every class I go to, I teach the children about planting and reaping. I use that whole concept even with educating them. Mm-hmm. You know, and so HABESHA has really given me a new lease on life. HABESHA has done that. It really has. Yeah, and I get thanks.
That's a powerful testimony. I mean, even with just from what you said at the offset, you know, getting inspired to get into the soil.
Yes.
That's such a great gift because we know some of what the terror that our people experience on this continent, which has chased us away from our riches, you know?
Yes.
Because we were always people of the soil. So that's a gift in itself, just to be inspired to get back into the soil, you know? Masterpiece, brother. Help us out in terms of some of that programming, some of the contributions that HABESHA is making to the community here in North America.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, to add to what the Sister Asanata so eloquently stated, I mean, you know, one thing or a major thing within the HABESHA Works curriculum is that community development. And, you know, that's one thing that you see across different organizations or different communities of color. It's more so what can I do or what can we do to get by, you know, versus how can we support each other, you know? And I think that's something that HABESHA as an organization does a very intentional job in making sure that we are supporting other like-minded organizations within our landscape. So, you know, that's helping at different partner sites or learning certain aspects from those elders or those stakeholders who come before us, like Baba Rashid Nuri or Mr. Bobby Wilson. We take very intentional emotional literacy, which is shown in the curriculum of Aya Institute, the Warrior Healer Builder curriculum. That is, you know, a major part in the coursework. And those things are not to be taken lightly as it comes to community development and working in something as essential as agriculture, because, you know, one knows once you start growing food, you're not growing just for yourself, you know, and the true value of cultivating that seed is how much can you share, how much can you assist in your community's overall health and wellness. So that's one, you know, and then how the programming has affected me. You know, I actually engaged with HABESHA prior to taking the HABESHA Works course. As you mentioned, Brother Ross Kofi, I was one of the designers and developers within the Kwaku Ando Sustainability Institute campus. And so, through that, I was assisting in the site development and architectural drafting and rendering. And that allowed me to visit Ghana, Liati Wote, in that process. Prior to that, I had not lived fully. I had not camped out. I had not planted a seed. I had not chopped down a banana tree at the end of its season. These things that, due to our traumas, have pushed my family away from. And through that experience, I was encouraged to come back and train with HABESHA in 2019. It wasn't until then where I went back and told my family, okay, look what I'm doing, y'all. This is, this feels great. This is something that I'm really interested in. And after I got the crazy looks, from my grandma and my uncles, they let me know, okay, well, yeah, your granddad was a master farmer. In fact, he was a sharecropper, which is how we got this land. Something that I hadn't known before. Wow. That's a key, right? That's an ancestral key that would have not been given to me to unlock our now future if I hadn't taken that first step. Just understanding how to cultivate, those certain principles in life. So that's a testimony that I have to tell everyone. You have to start, right? Not to mention, and I said, I believe now that I'm thinking about it, I may have told you this last time I was on your program, but once I started going down that path, I also found my wife. So brothers, I tell you, you start cultivating some good soil, cultivating some good soil and planting your seed in the right soil, brothers. And it's going to reach. Yes.
Wow. Wonderful. Man, I just got goosebumps thinking about that. That's Master P talking. Sister Asanada is with us as well. We're not going to keep you off for too much longer. We really appreciate your time. What I want to do is take a little pause and play a little trailer that some of y'all will remember. This was a critically acclaimed film. It played on PBS nationally for a while. Some of y'all have not seen it yet, and I realize there's a whole new generation that's not been exposed to this. Another way of telling the story of HABESHA, something called Black to Our Roots, which is the name of a program, a long-standing program of HABESHA, also the name of a film that was produced by our brother Ross Trey back in the day. Y'all check this out. Oldie but goldie for some of you, and for some of you it's something that you're just getting introduced to. Either way, check it out.
Thomasville is one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Atlanta. I could just go outside and stand on the porch and just look. And I see the fights and how they act and see all that wasted potential. It got me thinking, like, why are we the only people in the world that can't seem to associate with ourselves and connect that we from Africa, like, connect them two together.
Can I ask you all some questions? Yeah. Do you think you African?
Okay.
You gangster?
I consider myself as an African living in America. This is not my country. I was brought here.
I'm nigga. I'm Indian.
Africans came to America on planes, and African Americans came on boats locked in chains.
I hope to really find myself. I hope to really find what it feels to reclaim your identity, because I really don't know. But I really think that I will find it in Ghana. So many of the slaves that were lost overboard who tried to get home, just so many who hoped and wished and dreamt that they would be back in Africa. They lived through me. I don't think that I'll ever be complete if I don't really find out who I am, what village, what people, what land, what country, what whatever. It has to be specific for me. It's the beginning of me finding it out.
Yes, Black to Our Roots. It's an oldie but goldie. Hold on, let me turn that up. It's an oldie but goldie. For those of y'all, just a shameless plug. You can check that out. And that's the work of our brother Ross Trey and the whole crew. That was years ago. I don't even remember what year that was, but if Habesha is 23, now we're talking about at least 15 years ago. I think it's more than that. So I'm grateful for our guests joining us this evening. I want to ask you all now to share with us some of the details about the upcoming anniversary celebration. I really would like for our family to know what's going on for this 23rd anniversary right here in Atlanta. Just as a start, there's so much that you all have shared already, and that in my mind gives a lot of impetus for deeper research into Habesha, deeper research into self. The partnering and joining with an organization that is going to further the cause that you're looking to nurture in the world. But just for now, talk to us about what's happening early in February in terms of this anniversary.
Sister Sonata, may I? Okay. Yes. So, as Brother Roscoe has mentioned, we are celebrating our 23rd birthday, 23rd year of existence. And with that, we are having a birthday celebration on February 1st, celebrating Earth's elegance, right? So we want y'all to come out, put on your sharpest African attire or whatever you have, and join us for an evening in celebration of Habesha's impact in our community, as well as celebrating yourself. This is if this is your first time hearing about Habesha, this is a good example of what this true community looks like. We'll be joined by some live entertainment. We'll have a 3-course plant-based meal offered. DJ will be honoring some alumni and community members as well. And yes, we'll be cutting the rug out there on that dance floor. Right. So, the event will be at the Arts Exchange in East Point. Again, that's February 1st, 2025, from 5 to 8 p.m., celebrating our 23rd year of existence. And we love to see you all there in the space.
I'm typing it into the chat, Master P. So February 1st, 2025, at the Arts Exchange.
The Arts Exchange, 2148 Noonan Street, East Point, Georgia. Yep, and that's 5 to 8 p.m. If you all go to Habesha's website or page, you can find links and things. But yes, we'd love for y'all to join us. Open for all who are aligned, that is, and we appreciate your presence.
So let me get that website. That's habeshainc.org.
Yes, habeshainc.org.
HAINC.org.
Or you can find us on Instagram at Habesha Inc. And in the bio you can get the ticket links and whatnot.
Give thanks. I thank you all both for joining us this evening. I truly could have y'all here for another hour, just chopping it up about the then and the now. The intercontinental reality, the richness of the programming, because I know we just gave a little cursory glance, even of the programming, and big up Mama Afia. I see Mama Afia Mazamoya in the chat. One of our hometown heroines, representing the Aya Educational Institute. I thought of that when I said and instead of but, because Aya has presented to us a great gift, a great paradigm for liberation. I mean, straight up. So I was saying, and we have so much that is just right beneath our toes, right beneath our fingernails, that we really have the opportunity to dig into and dig more into, you know. So thank you all for just sharing that which you did share. I know it's inspired me, and I know a little bit about HABESHA. We always learn something new just by asking the right questions, you know. And I'm looking forward to at least 23 more years. We know that for eternity, that's 23 years is a drop in the bucket. And it's very noteworthy and very honorable and very something praiseworthy because of everything that our people are going through. It's an example of sustainability, because for some things it's hard to last. It's hard to keep it lasting for 23 hours or 23 days, much less 23 years, keeping it real, you know. So HABESHA has tapped into something beautiful, and we know it's not something willy-nilly. We know it's a formula that has been passed through the ranks, you know, through the ranks, through our ancestral heritage, through our genetic memory bank. So we're grateful. We big up all the HABESHA family. I want to thank Mama Asanada and Master Peace for joining us. And I look forward to seeing y'all, especially when you're talking about cutting the rug, Master Peace. I ain't know.
Come on now. Come on now.
Somebody,
Yeah.
I heard you had 2 left feet like Kashan, but let me see.
Hey, look, but they can both move though. Yes, sir. And that's DJ Rebellion that's blessing us with those smooth sounds too. So shout out DJ Rebellion. Yes.
On there. We had him on here earlier with a few other crew. And who else is on the stage that night? I think Brother Dean Brown, right? Dub Shack.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole lineup. It's a whole lineup of food, of fun, of just, you know, community in a true sense. And I can bear witness. I've been to many of those celebrations, and it's really a wholesome time.
And I didn't mention, pardon me for speaking over, but Sister Tina Myers and Mystic Roots with the cuisine. We can't fail to mention that. You know, your bellies are going to be full just as your hearts. So definitely, we love to see you.
We're going to eat good. We're going to eat good. Give thanks. Well, thank y'all both. And as we leave this evening, family, I want to play just a little reminder from the great Asajifo, whose name is rightfully being lifted up in this time. His work goes before him, and his work is being emulated by a new generation of leadership. Y'all take care of each other and take care of yourself.
Thank you, Brother Oscar.
Nkrumah gave funds to other nationalist movements and preached the message across the continent.
This mid-20th century is Africa's. This decade is the decade of African independence. Forward then to independence now. Tomorrow, the United States of Africa.